Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Sunday, April the 20th, 2025. It is, of course, Easter Sunday. So happy Easter to everybody out there. Hope you got all the chocolate eggs you were after and you've had a few days off. It's not easy being an employer this time of year though. We have a good 4 days of trade, of course, although we can't open Friday. Well, not all stores. My one store did. But mainly you can't open, but the rest of it, you have a good trade, but unfortunately it all goes up in smoke when you've got to pay up to about $70 an hour in penalty rates all weekend, so but a bittersweet. Anyway, I'm just, as long as everyone has a good time and stays safe and all that sort of stuff, I'm sure the employees love it because it's a good chance to earn some good coin, so good on them. On this day, back in 1996, we'll go to for starters, and Frenchman Jean-Baptiste Mendy won the WBC lightweight title when he defeated American Lamar Murphy on points in France to, as I said, to win that WBC lightweight title. A bit of rain there as well. 2002. The MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Floyd Money Mayweather. Or was he still Pretty Boy Floyd back then? It was for the lightweight title, so it would have been Pretty Boy Floyd. He defeated Mexican Jose Luis Castillo by decision. And as I said, that was for the WBC lightweight title. Now, was that the first one or second one? Either one. I think was that the first one, I reckon. But either way. That first fight was very disputed, wasn't it? So I still think Floyd Mayweather won a close decision, but I still think he got the chocolates anyway. 2013, in a fight between two Mexican warriors, Victor Terrazas defeated Christian Majares by decision, winning the WBC Super Bantamweight title. That took place in Mexico. And finally, in 2013, Saul Canelo Alvarez defeated Austin Trout on points to win the WBC, to retain his WBC, and also was it to add the WBA, I think it was. Was that his first unification fight? So that would have been before his fight with Floyd Mayweather, the one fight before he fought Floyd Mayweather. I remember at the time when he fought Floyd, I was actually at the fight, and it was an unbelievable experience, the hype and everything going on and the crowd. I remember they had, was it 12,000 at the weigh-in? Just a crazy event, but that was just before Canelo really started to hit it big. He was still, obviously, he was a superstar then, by the way, but after that Floyd Mayweather fight is when he really, even though he lost, really just catapulted him into the A-grade sort of sphere of boxers in the world. And he almost was on the cusp of becoming the face of boxing then, and what's that, 12 years ago. So he's been an unbelievable champion the whole way, hasn't he, Canelo Alvarez? And I did actually see this week, or actually in the last sort of couple of days, that he's talking about his future and who he's going to fight next. And he did say he's still open to going to 175, but the only fighter he would fight there is Dimitri Bivol. And he did say that in the first fight that he was only at 50%. And I don't like when fighters say that. Isn't it funny that when they win, nothing gets said? You know, there's no talk about injuries or upset camps or whatever it might be, but when they lose, isn't it amazing how everything has gone wrong? And you know, if you ask any fighter, they've never actually lost a fight. There's always been extenuating circumstances. You know, bad camp, dodgy decision, didn't feel right on the night, had an injury going in. I don't like when fighters say that. I know sometimes it is the case, but I think if you watch the Canelo fight with Dimitri Bivol, certainly wasn't a dodgy knee or a dodgy hand or something he had at the time. He was just outworked by a superior fighter on the night. And he really showed that blueprint to beat Canelo. The problem is, though, is that not many other fighters have the ability of Dimitri Bivol. I'm sure there's been a few that have sort of tried to follow that blueprint since that fight in 2022, but none have been able to succeed because they're not Dimitri Bivol. But I think the simple case was, now this is why I think he'd beat Canelo Alvarez every single time they fought, because he's got that style where he's in and out. He doesn't stand still for Canelo. He waits for Canelo to try and rest, and then he really ramps up the pace. Well, he did ramp up the pace. And just the game plan he used of going with Canelo, or being in and out and not letting Canelo get set. But then when Canelo was finished trying to get to Dimitri Bivol, he would then retaliate with a real burst and he'd catch Canelo when he was trying to rest. Brilliant game plan, and that's why I think he'd beat Canelo 10 times out of 10 if they fought. It just happens. Not to say that, not to say that Canelo Alvarez isn't a great fighter and maybe going to sort of go down in history as a better fighter than Bivol, but it's just styles. It's just styles. And he does say he's still the face of boxing, Canelo. I would probably still agree with that. Now, I know he's obviously not the same fighter that he was a few years back, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about being the face of boxing. And whenever, I suppose, any real boxing fan thinks of boxing, Canelo Alvarez is probably the first face you see when you think of boxing. And, you know, and obviously that's why Turki Al-Sheikh wanted to get involved as well. Now, is he the best pound-for-pound fighter anymore? No, I don't think he is. He's still got Usyk and Inoue and Bivol himself, so I don't think so, but I still don't think any of those guys. Well, you could probably maybe argue that Alexander Usyk is being the undisputed. Well, he's not undisputed anymore, is he? I'm still thinking, I'm going to say that he's the undisputed, but you know, he is the heavyweight champion of the world. But the problem is, of course, doesn't speak very good English, and he's from Ukraine, and that probably goes against him as light. Although having said that, Canelo Alvarez, I know he does speak good English, well, better English these days, but has really gotten through his whole career with not really speaking a lot of English. He's just gotten by just with the superstar sort of, the looks is a unique, you know, red-headed Mexican, and, you know, the nickname Canelo, which means cinnamon. He's just every generation, there's one that comes along, and he is it of our generation. You know, went from sort of De La Hoya to Mayweather to Canelo. And I suppose who's next? It's a very good question. Who is next? I don't really know. I mean, there is some sort of good up-and-coming stars that you could maybe make a case for. You could probably say someone like, I don't know, Keyshawn Davis. I don't know, I'm grasping at straws a bit there. I mean, I won't go through them all here, but it's, who we got? No, well, at heavyweight, you've got Moses Otama. Whether or not he's got the charisma to go with the power. Obviously, he's a Brit as well. I mean, you go through, well, let's have a quick look. We'll just go a bit off track here. I was actually going to have a look at the divisions today, guys. There's not a lot happening in the last couple of days, but I go through the divisions and see who I think is the best of the division and who their best matchup is. So I'll do that in a sec. But I don't know, at cruiserweight, well, Jai Patai, but still going to go against him that he's an Aussie. We're talking about the face of boxing here. Light heavyweight, not really anyone. Super middleweight, I don't see anyone. Middleweight, no, don't see anyone. Now, super light welterweight. Xander Zayos has probably got a bit of potential, I suppose, but has he got the ability to back it up? He's got a little bit of razzmatazz about him. Apart from that, not really. This is the one, Boots Ennis. He's probably the one that stands out, you would think, as being a potential face of boxing candidate. So we'll put him in there, Boots Ennis. Super lightweight. Now, Ryan Garcia is another one. He's probably the next one. And could we see, if that is the case, he becomes one of the faces of boxing, Garcia and Boots Ennis? Wow, what a fight that would be. So Boots Ennis not quite there yet. I'm just saying potentially he could be, but Ryan Garcia definitely. What is it? Lopez is probably Teofimo Lopez. Yeah, he's probably a little bit past it now. Who else have we got? Andy Cruz has definitely got potential, but whether, again, he's a Cuban fighting in mainly the States. So, yeah, you never know. But Keyshawn Davis, Shakur Stevenson, maybe. Tank Davis, you could probably say, is arguably one of the faces of boxing, although I'm probably going to upset a lot of people by saying that. Of course, the obvious one is Naoya Inoue. We're not, again, saying who's the best fighter in the world. We're saying who's the face of boxing. Definitely the face of boxing in Japan, isn't he? So, look, that's probably about it. So, yeah, it's a little bit sort of bleak out there at the moment, but I guarantee someone will come along. They always do. They always do. So we'll get to that in a second. Now, the Grand Prix last night, the WBC Grand Prix. Now, I didn't see all of it. I saw about the first 4 fights last night. I got to about sort of 12:30, quarter to 1. And it's been a big weekend, so I hit the sack. I didn't see Dylan Biggs' fight, but he did beat, where is it? It was on the ring site this morning. He beat Hamza Azim on points. So the scores were 60-54, 58-55, and 58-55. So I've tried to look it up, and I haven't been able to find it. It's not on YouTube. I went to DAZN to watch the highlights, and I couldn't find it. I had to sort of, it's pretty hard in the morning, so I get up and I've got to get organised pretty quick. So I was trying to find at least the highlights, and I couldn't. But apparently, it says here, this is the ring explanation of the fight, or description. It says here, proof to be far too experienced for the Brit, beating him by unanimous decision. Biggs used his size and front foot pressure to great effect, landing the crisper shots throughout. So that was Dylan Biggs. So I'm not quite sure who he fights next or when, although I think it is June, isn't it? So yeah, good win for Dylan Biggs, and he moves on with Hass Hamden. I did see actually yesterday Hass Hamden. Look, a great performance again, by the way, with that torn bicep. But I read in one of the articles somewhere here in Australia, of course, and they said it was one of the greatest, one of the greatest performances ever by an Australian boxing in the ring. Now, look, I have full respect for Hass Hamden for what he did. Fantastic effort to fight 3.5 rounds with a torn bicep, unbelievable courage, and ticker or heart to get through and win that fight. But one of the best performances of all time by an Aussie. I think we might be getting a little bit excited there. I mean, I remember Jeff Fenech going through fights with 2 broken hands. Now that's gutsy. Now it depends on what you describe as one of the best performances. Is it one of the gutsiest performances, or just one of the best performances overall? I don't know. But look, again, good on Hass Hamden. But I don't think the guy he fought is a Marcos Villasana, who Jeff Fenech went 12 rounds with 2 broken hands, or Victor Kalijes, who he had broken hands with as well. But all things aside, I'm not trying to take away from Hass's moment, because it was a great performance and a gutsy performance. But yeah, I'm not going to compare him with some of the great performances, because there's been a few in the Aussie boxing world, hasn't there? One fighter that is not Aussie, but it reminds me of sort of the adulation of what Jeff Fenech had in Australia. That's a fighter by the name of Barry McGuigan. Now, I read an article on him yesterday, and it's been, well, it seems to be the year for it, of these anniversaries, but it's been 40 years since Barry, the Clone Cyclone was his name, McGuigan. He beat Eusebio Pedrosa for the WBA 126-pound title. Now, if you're part of the sort of new age boxing fans, you probably won't know a lot about Barry. His son is one of the best trainers in England at the moment, or Ireland, Shane McGuigan. Very, very good trainer. And Barry's, I think, pretty high up in the scheme of things as well, over there as well. But it's coming up to the 40-year anniversary. And the reason I bring this one up, probably above a lot of other 40-year anniversaries that are happening this year as well, particularly the war between Hagler and Hearns, but if you haven't heard much about him or know much about him, go back and YouTube Barry McGuigan, because I remember, look, I was 11, 12 years old at the time when he beat Pedrosa, but what he did was really unite a country, and probably did it like no other could, because being Irish, the wars between the Catholics and the Protestants at that time was really at its peak. But they all loved Barry McGuigan. And on that day, I think it was actually early June in 1985, so a little bit away from it, but it's been brought up now. That's why I'm talking about it. But he fought Eusebio Pedrosa, who was making his 20th title defence. He was a Panamanian. And Barry fought him in front of 26,000 people in Ireland. 18 million viewers on TV watched the fight. And he beat Eusebio Pedrosa, who was a great champion. And at that particular time, he really did unite the whole of Ireland, who was sort of at war within itself. And even though it was a long way from Australia, I remember just being a massive fan of Barry McGuigan, and just the hype. I remember seeing actually a special on him on Wide World of Sports, and I was a big fan of Barry. His dad used to sing Danny Boy before the fight, so it was just an amazing atmosphere. And he really was just one of those, again, sort of once in a generation type of fighter. So if you don't know much about him, go back and check out Barry McGuigan. Unfortunately, he had a couple of title defences, but then he went to fight in Las Vegas. Thought he'd try and take America, and fought a young guy by the name of Stevie Cruz, who was an unknown young prospect at the time. They put him on or against Barry McGuigan. They thought it might be a really good sort of fight to expose Barry McGuigan to the American audiences, and unfortunately they put him on in Las Vegas in the middle of summer, in the middle of the day. And I'm assuming if you're coming from Ireland, you're not used to fighting in sort of 45-degree heat out in the sun in the middle of the desert. And he was beaten by Stevie Cruz. He battled through because he had the heart of a lion, but he lost his WBA belt to Stevie Cruz and only fought probably I think 4 or 5 more times after that, and never really, I don't think he actually got another shot at a world title, but just that was sort of it for Barry. And he retired, I think, a couple of years later. So, but as I said, he's still big on things, or a big sort of player in the Irish boxing or UK boxing these days. But I just saw it come up on my feed yesterday and I thought, yeah, Barry McGuigan, what a fighter he was. Just a gutsy guy with a big left hook, and a whole nation behind him. But anyway, I know that sort of is not the only one that's happened to, but I'm sort of talking my experience in boxing, and Barry McGuigan was just something else. All right, we'll just quickly go through the divisions, and I'm going to give you a quick view, or my view, on who I think is the number 1 in the division and who their best fight is coming forward or going forward. Now at heavyweight, pretty obvious, Alexander Usyk's the big dog. Now you might say that Daniel Dubois is the best fight for him. I disagree. I think Joseph Parker is the best fight for him. Now, if it wasn't for that IBF belt on the line or up for grabs, I don't think Dubois would really be in the conversation of things. I know he had that great win over Anthony Joshua, but I just think Joseph Parker's earned it, and I think he should be the one to fight Usyk. At cruiserweight, I think Jai Bataille is number 1 in the division. Pretty easy as far as who he should fight. Of course, Zurdo Ramirez in a unification fight. At light heavyweight, Dimitri Bivol is the number 1, and I actually think, though, you should forget about the Beterbiev fight. You should fight Benavides. That, I think, is the fight. Now, I understand for business reasons, financial reasons, and sanctioning body reasons, I understand that they're going to fight Beterbiev for the 3rd time, then maybe target Benavides. But I think Benavides is the better fight for Dimitri Bivol. I think Bivol will beat Beterbiev again, and it will set up a massive fight with Benavides. But I think, yeah, Benavides for me is the number 2 at the moment. At super middle, so 168, obviously it's Saul Canelo Alvarez. I'd like to see him in with, if we're talking strictly guys at the weight, I'd like to see him in with a Christian Mbili. Now, I know Mbili's, in my opinion, hasn't really got much chance of beating Canelo. I think he's custom made for Canelo as far as for him being able to have Mbili come to him and then pick him off. But I think he'd be an exciting fight. He'd be a dangerous fight because he's all, full steam ahead is Mbili, and I think he'd give Canelo a half decent fight. Come on, man, we're going to go this way. He's a little bit confused this morning because we've sort of gone a different way. We're trying to keep away from all the tourists. It has been absolute pandemonium in the last couple of days, fair dinkum. I haven't gone near the place. Well, I did on, when was it? A couple of days ago, I went down there, had to go to the supermarket, but holy shit, thousands and thousands of people just everywhere, and good luck to them. It's a bit of a tourist spot, so good on them. It's Easter, get out and about and come and see our beautiful landscape. I just don't want anything to do with it, so that's why I'm walking the back streets at the moment with Neil. All right, at 160, I think Janabek Alimkhanuly is the main man, and I would love for him to fight. Who was that? I'm just a bit torn. Is it Lara or is it Adames? I'm going to go with, I think, Adames. Based on his last fight, Lara seems to be the obvious choice, but I just don't think it'd be a great fight. I think Lara would sort of box conservatively. It'd be a bit of a chess match. Canuli would be, or Janabek would be coming forward the whole night. I get that. But I think as far as excitement goes, I'd probably go for Adames, who'd go after Alimkhanuly or Janabek and give him a good fight. I think Actually, I didn't give my predictions in the fights either, did I? I'll do that in a sec. I think Janabek wins that fight. Now, back to the first one, the heavyweights. I think Usyk does beat Joshua, and I think Opetaia beats Zerto. I think Bivol beats Benavides, and I think Canelo beats Mbili. Benavides and Canelo beats Mbili. A lot of B's in that going around at the moment. All right, 154. This is probably the hardest one to decide. I'm going to go with Virgil Ortiz Jr. and it's easy to say Bakram Murtazaliev, isn't it? This is a tough one. Look, I think number one is Virgil Ortiz. Who would I like in the fight? I'll go with Murtazaliev. I think he's earned it, and how devastating he looked against Tim Tszyu. I'm going to go with that fight. Let's go with Bakram Murtazaliev, Virgil Ortiz Jr. And I think Virgil Ortiz Jr. wins that fight. At welterweight, it's Boots Ennis and probably Brian Norman Jr. And I think Boots Ennis wins that one. At 140, this is another really good division. I would like to see... Now, where is Ryan Garcia? Where does he fall in the scheme of things? I've almost got to put an asterisk beside him because he's in between 140 and 147, isn't he? Look, if I'm going to put him at 140, I'd like to see Teofimo Lopez and Ryan Garcia. That's probably the best fight at that weight. Now, who is number one at the weight? Teofimo Lopez is number one at the weight. But I'd like to see him fight Ryan Garcia. At 135, number one for me, still Tank Davis, but I'd love for him to fight William Zepeda. Not Shakur Stevenson, not the greatest fight. I'd like to see him fight William Zepeda. I think Davis beats them all, by the way. I think he beats all those other 135-pounders. At 130, I would say, you got to say Lamont Roach Jr. now, don't you? I mean, after that performance over Tank Davis, I think he's the number one. Sharky Foster might have something to say about that. Not so much sure Navarrete is part of the top elite anymore, but I'll go with Lamont Roach. But I'd like to see him actually fight Sharky Foster. Be a good fight. At 126, I think the main man is Stephen Fulton, but I'd like to see him fight Nick Ball, and I think Stephen Fulton wins that fight. At 122, well, that's easy. Noah Inoue, the undisputed champion. I would like him to fight probably MJ, you'd probably think. Murajon Akhmadaliev. That's probably the fight you'd have to say. And we're talking about guys strictly in the division, by the way. I'm not talking about guys going up and down, or else it'd be Nakatani, wouldn't it? Speaking of Nakatani, he's the main man at 118. And he's actually fighting the guy I would like him to fight next, and that's Ryosuke Nishida. So a good fight there, and I think Nakatani wins. At 115, well, that is Bam Rodriguez, isn't it? I'd like to still see him fight Chocolatito as that final sort of exclamation mark on him wiping out all the legends. So I'm going to go with Bam Rodriguez, of course, in that one to knock out Chocolatito, but it would be a great fight. Then at flyweight, not really sure all these guys. Well, this guy I am, Kenshiro Terashi, number one by a mile in that division. Let's just say a unification fight with one of the Anthony Oskalogwa, or it is, and also Masamichi Yabuki. Either one. I haven't really seen much of either of them, to be honest. But I think no matter who he fights at that weight, that Kenshiro Terashi would be the number one fighter in the world. I'm not going to go into the 108s because I'm not really sure of a lot of those fighters in that division. So that's it. That's the my picks of who are the number one fighters in each division and who they should fight, in my opinion. But guys, that's going to do it for this Easter Sunday. I'm going to just finish up my walk here with Neil and chill for the day. I've got orders to do. I've got a bit of cleaning up to do. Might even wash my car if I can brave going down to the township and washing my car with people everywhere. But I might just do it at home. Might be a little bit easier and safer. But guys, have a great day. We'll catch you tomorrow.